This is the Orioles Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Baltimore Orioles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It was too little, too late for the Baltimore Orioles on Tuesday night as they fell to the Cleveland Guardians at Camden Yards 6-3. This team constantly finds itself starting slow out of the gate, and it's messing with their psyche. Charlie Morton could not get things going. He was, again, consistently inconsistent, and the offense didn't show any signs of life until midway through the game. Not a recipe for success for a team that's averaging 4.3 runs per game through its first 16 games and falls to 6-10. Thank you for joining me on the Orioles Postcast. My name is Luke Slabaugh. If you're new to the channel or if you're seeing me for the first time, I'm the post-game show host exclusively for this season. I'm here with you after every game, filling in the gaps between Connor's show every day, filling in on weekends, giving you all that coverage you need. This is a complimentary piece to the Locked On Orioles podcast, and you get 2 shows a day every week through the end of September and hopefully into October. But the Orioles got some ground to make up. Connor Newcomb, of course, still runs this house. I'm just renting space. Thank you for listening on the Locked On Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts for free, and watching live on YouTube as I see some comments, hopefully civil, hopefully not too infuriated. Again, my name is Luke. Thanks for joining me. It's time for group therapy. Prior to a Cedric Mullins 7th inning home run, the O's were staring down the barrel at their 3rd shutout in 11 games. And before Ryan Mountcastle hit an RBI double in the 8th, the O's were 0 for their last 18 with runners in scoring position, including an atrocious 0 for 14 or 0 for 13, I believe it was, in the Toronto 2-game series finale. So they were no hit through 4+. And so the question that we should be asking, since we have beaten the pitching topic to death, is why this offensive cold streak and why now?
This is what you'll be talking about.
It's kind of scary, isn't it? The O's chase. And as I try to diagnose this is mostly service level observations from what I've seen, from what we have both seen, dipping a little bit into the stats. However, I'll let Connor Newcomb take the baton tomorrow morning and do a little bit more of a deep dive. He's got the time. He's prepping his notes right now. I got to do all this stuff in game, do it live. So this is going to be no knock on left-hander Logan Allen. He changed his speeds effectively. Credit is due. Doing some digging into these first 16 games of the Orioles season, they're swinging at 29% of pitches outside of the zone. That's tied for 9th in Major League Baseball alongside Minnesota. They're only making contact about 52.7% of the time when they do that. That is the lower end of the league, in fact, 24th among Major League ball clubs. This shows us that there's a lot of hacking going on. For context, these last 2 years, 2023 and 2024, the prior 2 seasons, the O's led the American League in wins, and they were swinging at the same rate of pitches outside of the zone, but they made contact nearly 6% more of the time in that time frame. That was good for 11th best in baseball. You can attribute this offensive decline and cold streak to a number of factors, and I'm not going to pinpoint a single one as the issue for tonight's 6-3 loss. There's bad luck. There's also poor pitch recognition, chasing, as we have mentioned. Mechanically, we saw some instances tonight. Ryan Mountcastle, up 3-1, pulls his head at a slider outside of the zone and does it again to strike out swinging. Also, not converting on hitters' counts. You'll be reminded that in the Toronto series briefly here at Camden Yards, we talked about Gunnar Henderson and Jordan Westburg constantly getting into hitters' counts, 2-1, 3-1 counts, and then not converting, either swinging of something way outside of their range or rolling over on a pitcher's pitch. Early in the game, you want to see as many pitches as possible. And I was excited heading into tonight to see Jordan Westburg in the leadoff spot. We had seen that at least one other time earlier this season, and the options there are limited. Gunnar Henderson was hot and cold, was striking out a little bit more than you would want, but I was quickly unenthused and deterred when Westberg popped up the first pitch of the game, this lazy pop up to Carlos Santana at first. He adjusted in his next at bat, was able to draw a walk on a full count against Logan Allen. Same thing with Ryan Mountcastle, 3-1 count, whiffs on a sweeper, low and outside. This was in the second inning, and then goes down swinging on a 3-2 count. The Orioles right now have the 25th, or they rank 25th in baseball in walk rate. This is a team that currently lacks patience and has also, to their credit, gone up against some really strong arms and strong arms with a resurgence. We mentioned Chris Bubich, for example, coming out of nowhere in the Kansas City Royals series, and what a career he has built for himself. Logan Allen is another in that line of pitchers that is throwing them off balance. But even the Zach Gallons and Brandon Pfaadt, you would like a little bit more bang for your buck. The O's have not shown the ability to step on throats to finish the job, to pass the baton, to walk, to live another at bat, to keep a plate appearance going. Perfect example of this. I mean, Mountcastle, if he walks, next at bat, Gary Sanchez hit that 108-mile-an-hour rocket, careened off the third baseman. Shortstop had to throw him out. Probably the hardest hit ball that the O's had all game. The inability to finish at bats is what is costing this team right now, in addition to the pitching struggles that we're going to get into in just a couple of minutes. The team badly misses Colton Cowser. If you go back and look at my comments on opening day, one of my main takeaways was, yes, it was a 6-home-run performance, but how they manufactured runs and were able to elongate at-bats, ramp up the pitch counts against Jose Barrios in that opening day start. Colton Cowser kind of led the charge in seeing those pitches in the leadoff spot, able to have a productive at-bat, even if he didn't reach base or make an impact play. He didn't drive in a run necessarily, and that helped his teammates by proxy. Cedric Mullins continues to be hot. He would be the player of the game if this result was just a little bit different. Reached base 3 or 4 times and hit his team-leading 4th home run. It's a contract year for Cedric, the elder statesman, showing up and balling out on Jackie Robinson Day. You'll recall that diving catch backwards he had last year. I believe Cole Irvin was on the mound for that game. They're hitting the ball hard. We had mentioned that Gunnar Henderson in the leadoff spot had been doing that quite a bit, but they were either right into the ground or right at people. They're getting bested by pitchers' pitches. And one other note before we turn the page and focus on the pitching is, what is with this lineup? Manager Brandon Hyde, known to constantly switch things up. GM Mike Elias saying today that certainly the front office passes on advanced stats, feedback, matchup, things of that nature for Brandon Hyde and his staff to consider, but they gave him the full vote of confidence that we trust his process and we trust his decision. However, the bottom half of this order did not inspire confidence whatsoever. Between Sanchez, Laureano, and Mateo being the 3 of the bottom 4, Sanchez, there's upside at 32 years old, but he is not going to demonstrate the pop or game-changing ability that you want out of a everyday player. That's why he's the backup. But he's got some juice in there. Mateo doubled as well. Granted, it came in the later stages of the game, but good time for Georgie to get his first hit. And Laureano, good for defense, but this overwhelmingly right-handed leaning platoon-ish lineup does not serve this team in the short term or the long term. Eventually, Jackson Holliday is going to have to see left-handed pitching. Come now, come the postseason, come whenever. Same would go for Heston Kjerstad. For the next 2 months, he is the guy that you would want in left field. They're going to have to expose themselves to some of the nastiest left-handed off-speed pitches that they can, be able to recognize pitches out of the pitcher's hands. There's enough film study to be done and video review to learn from your mistakes and start to cultivate more of an approach against sophisticated pitching. You're at the highest level. Got to let these kids have an opportunity to thrive. I'm just saying that Laureano and Mateo and Sanchez, every time there's a lefty, does not inspire confidence. It's not going to do anything for the development of this team or these players. There was a manager 12, 13 years ago for the Chicago Cubs named Dale Swaim. And he was notorious for doing the exact same thing. Analytics, advanced stats, be darned. All righties against lefties and stack as many lefties as you can against a right-handed pitcher. Granted, that was in the throes of a gutting and rebuilding Chicago Cubs team that 3 years later would win a World Series. But we have not heard from Dale Swaim in a manager's chair since. I don't mean to sound grim. They scored runs, but just not timely and not effectively. Talking about a 6-3 loss here in the Locked On Orioles postcast. My name is Luke Slaybaugh. I'm just renting space here. Connor Newcomb is still the main man. Coming up, oh, Charlie Morton. He is frustrating. This is starting to get on my nerves, and probably yours too. Also, new O's acquisition, Scott Blewett, did not blew it in his Orioles debut. Positive, another welcome addition to this bullpen. All coming up. 41 comments on YouTube. Please be not profane. Okay, break time. Live ad reads. Starting with FanDuel. And with all these fun things coming up, NBA playoffs, FanDuel says get in on the action, because if you join them, FanDuel, place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. So please be smart and please know ball. After the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. That's a lot of risk, but not as much risk as letting Heston Kjerstad hit against lefties. Or Emmanuel Clase. I don't know, man. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. If you're here just for the ad copy, let me know. I've gotten notes about it. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up. Whew. This Washington Capitals, St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup that I'm totally calling. Big hockey guy. Why don't you put your sports knowledge to the test? If you know ball, if you know puck, go with Prize Picks. Easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. That's what they're saying. That's what people are saying. And with Prize Picks, you can simply pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports. You can do a basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to $2,000. Win up to 2,000 times your cash. I guess it could be $2,000. Could be a lot more than that. It depends on how much skin you're willing to put in the game. A lot of things you could do. Luka Doncic, been absolutely on fire since he joined the Lakers. I'm sure you've heard that one quite a bit. What about those St. Louis Blues? What about Dylan Holloway? What about Jake Neighbors? What about the most insane, mysteriously clutch and unclutch goalie of all time, Jordan Binnington? Won the Four Nations tournament. Why not put your money on the St. Louis Blues? Why not put the mortgage on the St. Louis Blues? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's all one word, LOCKEDONMLB, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. The masculine urge to see the comments double during the ad copy. They're probably saying, go home. Joke's on you. I am. Choosing your favorite Charlie Morton start this year is like picking your favorite redheaded stepchild. Difficult and leaves you sleepless at night, thinking you may be at the start of a horror movie. And Charlie Morton has been mired by inconsistent innings in each of his first 4 starts here. Things going swimmingly enough, giving up hard contact, but right at people. And it was a loss of command in the third that really started to grind my gears, particularly when you consider the caliber of hitters and the order of hitters in which he was going up against. Walks Bo Baylor, all right. Then falls behind 3-1 to the 9-hole hitter, Brian Rocchio. Walks Stephen Kwan. And that is all avoidable trouble. Getting plagued by walks. If they hit you hard, we're cool. But compounding that with a leadoff walk and then a walk to load the bases just sets you up for failure. Something mechanically was off. And they keep saying on the MASN broadcast, because Lord knows I did not tune into TBS, that his stuff is playing up well. Like his fastball is riding up to 95. And in terms of the actual stuff, like the quality of pitches, he feels healthy. He looks good. But just starts missing at the most inopportune times. So that leads to a Jose Ramirez sacrifice fly and honestly limits the damage. Gets bailed out by this awesome 9-6 double play. Tyler O'Neill catches a fly ball from Carlos Santana and nails Rocchio at second. An absolute dart, like 90 miles an hour, this huge cannon throw. That's why you got him. That's why you signed him to the longest tenured deal in the Mike Elias era. 28 pitches, though, to get through all that nonsense. Follows it up with an efficiently, like wildly efficient 4th inning. 7 pitches, strikes out Gabriel Arias on a 93-mile-an-hour sinker. And then, like, that's behind him. We're thinking good, 1-0. Give this offense some time to cook. I don't know. And then the wheels come off. Top of the 5th, and it starts as every bad inning has started for the Orioles. It's bad luck and then compounded by avoidable trouble. And this even goes back to the Kansas City series, like Jorge Mateo, like misses a fly, like a 99% catchable fly ball from Bobby Witt Jr., and then the wheels come off. Dean Kramer pitching tomorrow, by the way. This freak triple to Angel Martinez. In fact, well struck, but into this jet stream that was going on into right field. It was windy all across the DMV today. It was wild. Drive home today. Kind of shaky. And Bo Naylor sacrifices him in 2-0. Cool. Walks the 9-hole hitter Rocchio again. And then 4-seamer inside to Stephen Kwan. Boom. It's a 4-0 game. And at the time being, most hope in this game is gone. Win probability in the tank. And then 2 more singles before he can get out of that inning. 25 pitch inning. So Charlie Morton goes 5 innings plus, 7 hits, 3 walks, all of which were part of consequential innings. 2 strikeouts and the 1 home run to Kwan. Good news is there's new reinforcements in this bullpen. Not sure if that's what you were asking for after the first 15 games of the season, but you got them. And it came in the form of right-hander Scott Blewett. Claimed off waivers from Minnesota. And the O's announced the move today, releasing left-hander Luis Gonzalez. They needed a spot on the 40-man, and Scott Blewett is here. Brandon Hyde saying he needs someone to go multiple innings, and he did that. 1 2/3. Talk about jumping right into things. No earned runs, a hit, 2 strikeouts, splitter, slider, looked good. Good put away pitches. Blewett is a fascinating case study in objects in the mirror are not what they appear. A couple of games this year, Minnesota pitched to a 1.93 ERA. he has gotten the results of late at the major league level, despite the peripherals looking not so great. Even last year, 20 innings pitched at the big league level for Minnesota, 1.77 ERA. Now, traditional stat heads or people that have followed the game for a long time or are more interested in the pitching triple crown stats of wins, earned runs, strikeouts, you'd think, wow, this guy is a put away setup man. Like, welcome on in. He's been really good with inherited runners. And commonly, he's been hit a lot more, a lot harder at the minor league level. In fact, his walk rates and his strikeout rates have been below league average, but yet has been able to get across these results. In a way, it's almost like an extended sample size of what we've seen out of Brian Baker, for example. Baker's stuff has played really well, but he's come in with inherited runners, gotten some hard contact, but for the most part, been able to put people away. Do we expect to see, a 1.29 ERA from Bake Show over the course of 60 or 70 innings? To be determined. Hopefully he's able to work that much and have that much success. 89 comments. I am seeing some major pessimism in the comments. Thank you for watching live on YouTube. And thank you for joining me here on the Locked On Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you for listening and watching. If this is a replay, we love our replay viewers. I am very active in the comment section. DJ says, it's really ugly out there. Gordon Huskin says, imagine not blaming David Rubenstein. Well, he's got a bobblehead day coming up. Might have to give this some time, considering the aggression with which the front office has at times moved. Certainly the offseason was underwhelming compared to the expectations that I think O's fans and the national media had. But going out and trading for a Corbin Burnes season ago, signing Tyler O'Neill, these are stepping stones and building blocks that need one or two more echelons. There's certainly a core and a nucleus here, but what happens when all the bats start fanning or go through this combined slump? You need some complementary pieces to put things back together. You'll recall a couple of days ago, actually last week, where I was like, what about Justin Steele? And he's gone for the year with elbow surgery. This is rough. Thank you, Gordon Huskin, for acknowledging that you're here. I cannot broadcast profanity on this. Daniel Flores put some really good vocal fandom to this. No extensions, old players, no starting pitching. What did we expect? This team needs a new leadership, young talent being wasted. Luckily, this nucleus is cost controlled and team controlled for a while. Cedric Mullins, however, is a fascinating case study in how a David Rubenstein era Orioles team will react to a homegrown and indispensable talent hitting the market. Working in their favor is that Cedric Mullins will probably not be outfielder number one on the free agent power rankings. I think of like a Kyle Tucker, someone who is hitting the cover off the ball, walking at a career high rate, helping a team win right now and have the best run differential in baseball. Mullins, however, is a player who has 5-tool capabilities and is worth the 6-year, 7-year investment that past ownership groups would not extend themselves for. Maybe I'm off base on this. You can certainly check me in the comments, but how they treat Cedric Mullins and how they address this trade deadline and postseason standing, not factoring into this. I would be very fascinated to see what happens with that. James Reckling has a comment that I cannot broadcast. Julian Taylor says, stop waiting on Grayson, Bradish, and Wells. They all stay hurt. Trade the prospects and go get Miller from the A's and Bauer or Cease. Now, I know that ain't who I think it is, that middle name there. Dylan Cease, though, probably not going to part ways with the Padres, who probably have a claim for being the best team in baseball, currently undefeated at home. But in the offseason, this past offseason, and remember Connor had some really great videos on this about the potential arms on the market. And there should be some. Sandy Alcantara, probably right-hander number one at the trade market, or the trade deadline, excuse me. Panorama Jazz Band and Brass Band. I like brass. I like Glenn Miller's Army Marching Band doing the St. Louis Blues. Low-key banger. Check it out on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you get your music. It's not a plug. It's not a paid advertisement. You know how it is. Panorama Jazz Band and Brass Band says it's weird to me how they're hot and cold, competitive at bats in one game and then whiffs in the next. And it's interesting that left-handers sometimes are the crux of this problem. It's almost as if the team has an advanced scouting hole or is stacking the wrong hitters in the wrong order. I thought it was wise to put Westburg in the leadoff spot today. That first at bat, which I pointed earlier was bad, notwithstanding. All right, I'm seeing. All right, we are going to close shop for now. I want to appreciate and thank all of you watching right now live on YouTube and listening on the Locked On Podcast Network for the replay. Tomorrow, chance to even up the series. As I have said, this homestand, in my view, determines the trajectory of this season. I'm not saying that this season rides on the next handful of games. However, with an extended amount of time at home and then 3 more games in DC, this team should be able to pull itself out of some bad habits. And tomorrow they get a chance to do that and turn around a lot of the narratives. 6:35 first pitch on MASN 2. It is right-hander Dean Kramer. Dino. He of the 8.16 ERA going up against right-hander Gavin Williams. Hope to see Jackson Holliday in the lineup, as you would out of a number 1 overall pick from 3 years ago. That is my spiel. I want to thank you all again for watching on YouTube Live and listening on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Luke Slabaugh. I'm the post-game show host, known as the Postcast, filling in the gaps, giving you extra bonus content. This is a complimentary piece to the Locked On Orioles podcast that you know and love. Happy to share the space. Want to be a part of this community. I will be active in the comments after the fact. Tune in to Connor's show early Wednesday morning. Unfortunately, not the result we want. So the O's fall to 6-10. Final score, Cleveland Guardians 6 and the Baltimore Orioles 3. Thanks for watching and listening. Have yourself a good night.